What is going on, you guys? Welcome to my full card breakdown for UFC Canada this weekend. Pretty good card, a lot of live underdogs that I love. Prelims are honestly better than last week. And speaking of last week, the GOAT, we all know it, gets it done. First person to ever choke out Gamrot, first time in Rio. It was even better with Gamrot calling him a chicken before the fight. Released that video of him being excited that he took the fight. God, it felt so good watching him finally get mauled.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
I didn't do any videos last week. I needed to get ahead for this week and UFC 321 next week. But the week before that, we finally got our bounce back win. The lock of the week was Puna Hele and Veronica Hardy. I needed that win. I also need a win this week. I need to get some momentum built back up again. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the first fight. First fight of the night, we got Azamat Bakoyev versus Yusri Balgari. I don't get the hype around Bakoyev. He has 2 knockouts in the UFC. A win over Zach Reese isn't bad, but Zach Reese realistically is still relatively unproven. And Ryan Loder is a grappler who I don't truly think is UFC level, and he was having a lot of success on the feet until getting dropped. But before the UFC is where you really see Bakoyev's lack of skill. On the feet, he clearly relies on his power. He's loading up everything into 1 or 2 strikes at a time. Bad cardio. It doesn't look like he's going in there to put on a pace. He does horrible moving backwards, and he gets pressured back very easily. He's supposed to be the dominant grappler, but he has horrible takedowns and even worse control on the ground. All these people saying he should take Balgari's head off just because of 2 fights in the UFC. On the regional scene, he was known for being a blanket grappler that wasn't dangerous and didn't get finishes. The commentators would talk about it during his fights, about how he gets criticized by the crowd for just staying on the fence or laying on someone. The competition he was fighting in the LFA just wasn't good. The only person that we really know is Dylan Budka. He actually fought him in the middleweight championship, 5 rounds, went to a split decision with him, and I don't think he truly won that. Just looked horrible in it, terrible defense, eating everything that was thrown his way, really struggling to close distance against Dylan Budka, got wobbled a couple times and dropped bad at one point. And when he goes for these takedowns, he's putting all of his energy into them, constantly shooting the same takedown attempt. He will desperately cling on to the leg even if it's clearly not working. He held onto Budka's leg against the fence for the entire 5th round. Any ref in the UFC would have broken them up and separated it. Budka was actually celebrating at the end of the fight because he was so convinced that he had won. He has terrible control on the ground. Maybe it's gotten better at ATT, but I just don't think it was obvious when you watch the Zach Reese fight, because Reese kept hitting him with elbows and trying to go for submissions instead of trying to get back up to the feet. And even then, he was still able to get his feet on his hips and break the guard multiple times. But when you watch his fights before the UFC, he's fighting guys who have no wrestling, no ability to defend a takedown, and they're getting up probably 15, 20 times in a row. He had a guy on the ground with both of his legs tied up, like how Khabib does it, and still got reversed. Having guys in side control, going for a sub, and they get to their feet instantly. His striking has tons of holes, no head movement, looks horrible getting pressured backwards. And now he's going up a guy who's getting completely overlooked. Very high level kickboxer before starting MMA, fought Poatan 3 times and even won a decision against him. If you're taking shots clean on the chin from Poatan, I can only imagine you can handle Bakoyev's power. 6'5", huge reach, and uses it incredibly well. Phenomenal footwork, gorgeous counters, fast hands, super unpredictable the way he's mixing up the strikes. His only loss in MMA is to Marco Tulio on the Contender Series, and he still had a lot of great moments against him, and we know how good Marco Tulio is, getting off the fence the entire time except at the very end when he was completely gassed. But he supposedly had Lyme in that fight. Usually I'm not the one to believe that, but he went 5 rounds on the regional scene against a guy who looked like a lot better of a wrestler than Bakoyev, and his cardio looked very good. Just perfect timing, incredible counters, heavy shots to the body. It's so hard to close distance on him to begin with the beautiful footwork in that frame. Never mind when you're struggling with the range of Dylan Budka. His last fight on the Contender Series was dominant, beautiful jab, super unpredictable. He's got incredible footwork and defensive movement, especially for somebody that's his size. I think this is one of those fights where the betting odds are entirely wrong and it's flying completely under the radar. It's one of the first fights of the night. People are less likely to care about it and look into it. Vegas knows they'll look at the betting lines, see a Russian whose last name ends in EV, training at American Top Team, with 23 fights in his record and 2 first-round knockouts in the UFC, against a kickboxer with 10 professional fights and a loss on the Contender Series. And at only -300, I mean, what a steal. They throw it in every parlay, and then after the fight, scream, fraud check, fraud check. Like, no, it was blatantly obvious and in our face for 21 straight fights. It's just that nobody wants to watch a 25-minute LFA fight. I think he defends all the takedowns easily. I think his height makes it very hard to get a single leg trip. He's got great balance and does a good job of getting to the fence to defend those takedowns. And if you're getting dropped in multiple fights against guys like Dylan Budka, I think Bulgari is way too much of a sniper on the feet to not find your chin. So give me Bulgari by knockout, definitely my favorite underdog this week. And if I'm being honest, I think it's dominant. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think people are getting the complete wrong read on Bukoyev because they haven't truly watched his past fights. So give me Bulgari by first or second round knockout. Next fight, we got Kyle Prepelic versus Drew Dober. I love Drew Dober in this fight. This is a massive step down in competition for him. He's coming off a few losses. I don't love how much damage he took in the Manuel Torres fight. That was definitely a late stoppage. Somehow he still didn't go out cold. He really does have an insane chin. His other fights before that, even though they were losses, he still had a lot of moments of success throughout them. Against John Silva, he really showed how insanely tough he is. There were multiple times in that fight where most fighters would be out cold. And he doesn't just survive, but he recovers and he stays dangerous after. Even in that loss, there were still a lot of moments where I think he'd land on Prepelic. Silva was just too quick and too good of a fighter. Against Moicano, he looked great, had a razor close decision with him. He hurt him bad twice in that fight, showed how good his wrestling was against a grappler as good as Moicano. Even got a reversal and some heavy ground and pound on him in that second round. And this is the Moicano that put that beating on Benoit only like 6 months later. His cardio is incredible too. He looked just as fresh and explosive in that third round, even after all that counter wrestling. Prepelic isn't necessarily a terrible fighter. This is just way too high level of a competition for him. He did show how tough and durable he was against Benoit, ate some crazy elbows, didn't get knocked out. But in Prepelic's past fights, he has shown a ton of holes, really bad defense. There was a lot of just slow, sloppy shots, charging forward recklessly, getting taken down easily, leaving himself open to counters a lot. When he fought Hubbard, it was a while ago, but he was struggling a lot with his movement and the chaos in that fight, and Dober thrives in chaos. He probably finds a knockout. I have a feeling he might wrestle with him and get a ground and pound finish or a sub. So give me Drew Dober to win this fight by knockout, probably in the first or second round. Next fight, we got Danny Barlow versus Jordan Santos. I really like Danny Barlow in this fight. When I think of fighters who are naturally gifted, Danny Barlow is one of those guys that comes to mind. Crazy fast reaction time, massive power, just a guy that you watch him fight and it feels like he could have gone far in whatever sport he was put in as a kid. Got knocked out against Sam Patterson, but that win isn't aging too bad. He was actually looking really good in that fight before he got caught, and it looked like he would have recovered from it, but Patterson landed a couple of very well-placed shots. It wasn't like he just got swarmed and put out with anything. He's shown a lot of improvements in the striking, used to be much more reckless and overthrow a ton on his counters, but he's really cleaned that up. Against Veretennikov, he looked good, but it wasn't his best performance. Was very low output, but I think that's because he's pretty much exclusively a counter striker and he was just waiting for him to throw the entire time. It's not the best style to have when you're fighting another counter striker like Veretennikov, but Jordan Santos is going to give him every opportunity in the world to land counters. He's way too flat-footed and careless about the punches that are coming back his way. Once his cardio fades, he's slow and sloppy and doesn't have a lot of power, has no head movement. I mean, at one point, Ozzy Diaz literally grabs his head and loads up an uppercut on him, like when you're training on one of those practice rubber dummies. If he fought smart and threw less, he could really conserve his energy and land with more power and accuracy, but instead he chooses to just never stop moving forward and throwing. I mean, this fight is nothing but heart versus skill.
This is heart against fucking skill. I'm telling you, cocksuckers.
I think if Ozzy Diaz is almost finishing you, then it's only going to take one punch for Barlow to put you out cold. I think this fight is going to look very similar to the Josh Quinlan knockout. He just runs forward too recklessly against a guy as dangerous as Barlow. So give me Danny Barlow to win this fight by second round knockout. Next fight, we got Bruno Silva versus Hyung Sung Park. This is an incredible fight. I'm super excited for this, but I think it's a much closer fight than the odds have it. I'm very high on Park as a prospect. I do think he has a lot of promise, especially for his age. I love the way he fights, that constant forward pressure, never afraid to throw down. super heavy leg kicks. He's a super dangerous grappler, has incredible control with his body lock while on the back, but he does get dropped way more than you'd like to see, especially against a guy as powerful and dangerous as Silva. Park's striking has looked incredible recently. The boxing and footwork is so clean and he looks so comfortable on the feet, you would not be able to tell that he started off as a grappler. He's got a great stiff jab, perfect timing, incredible combinations, insanely fast hands. He's got a very high fight IQ and awareness. The striking looked nasty when he fought Shannon Ross, and when he hurt him with a liver shot, he saw his reaction and immediately attacked it with a gorgeous combination. Not only to have the awareness to recognize that he's hurt, but to have the skill and precision to land multiple punches within the same combination in the exact same spot is very impressive. Bruno Silva is not an easy fight by any means though, coming off of 2 losses to the absolute cream of the crop in the division. And while I think there's a lot you can learn and gain from fighting the best guys in the division, there's also a point where it switches from gaining high level experience to just taking excess damage. He's got some great kicks at range, but he does his best and he's most dangerous when he's reckless and throwing wild. If it's too clean and technical, he starts having trouble closing distance. You can see him loading up when he's about to throw an overhand, but he makes that decision to just bite down on his mouthpiece and go. He is so insanely explosive and powerful. I think this fight looks very similar to the Cody Durden fight, where he was dominating up until getting knocked out. I think Park has a very strong beginning to the fight, coming out with that pressure, chewing away at his leg, maybe even gets him down and controls him for a while. But then I think Bruno Silva is going to come out crazy aggressive in the 2nd or 3rd round, knowing that he can't win fighting this guy clean, and I do think he's going to find Park's chin. Park has just shown himself getting dropped too many times by too low level of competition. And with Bruno Silva, all it takes is just one punch and it's over. If you're gonna bet on this fight, I think Silva by KO at plus 700 is crazy value when he's only a plus 185 underdog. To have the odds that high when Bruno Silva is that dangerous and Park's gotten dropped as many times as he has is pretty crazy to me. So give me Bruno Silva to get a come from behind knockout in the 2nd half of this fight. Next fight, we got Charles Jourdain versus Davey Grant. Jourdain had his first fight at bantamweight, and it seems pretty clear that this is the right weight class for him. At featherweight, he was a really confusing fighter to predict. Super skilled, great technique and defense. It just always felt like he was never able to put it together in the cage against the giants that he was facing. But he looked great in his bantamweight debut against Victor Henry. Beautiful technique, perfect footwork. Combos were sharp and pinpoint accurate. He's able to throw and land in chaos, which is something you're going to need against Davey Grant. These guys are the complete opposite fighter. Jourdain has that beautiful movement and is this calculated pinpoint sniper, while Davey Grant is the come forward, dig your heels in the canvas and try to take your head off with everything. He's got amazing cardio even for his age, nothing but grit and that Neil Magny unk experience. He would do so much better if he threw straight punches and moved his head, but usually he chooses to just throw the same hooks over and over again, even in the pocket. But I think Jourdain is going to be way too clean and fast of a striker for him. Style of just marching forward, constantly throwing hooks works great on fighters who are going to wilt to that pressure, but it seems like that style would play very well into Jourdain's. So give me Jourdain win this fight either by KO or decision. Next fight, we got Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frevola. Pretty fun fight. I'm going to go with Matt Frevola. I think he's just much more dangerous. One of those guys where if he's just on that night, he's a hard storm to weather. Kyle Nelson's a good striker, got some good technique, high guard. Definitely a more technical striker than Matt Frevola, but I don't think nearly as dangerous. I think Frevola has a big speed advantage, and I think he knows he can't just stand on the outside and strike with this guy. So it's gonna be Matt Frevola to win this fight by KO. Next fight, we got Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. My confidence level in Manon has dropped significantly since this fight was first announced. When this fight was first announced, I thought Manon would dominate. I thought she was an easy lock, but something about this fight just doesn't feel right. Watching the tape back on Manon, her past 2 fights against Blanchfield and Valentina, her movement and footwork do not look nearly as good anymore. I know she had a very close decision with Valentina, but it is a completely different style to Jasmine's. I don't like how many times she was getting touched up by Erin Blanchfield. I don't like how her strikes don't have power. I think we're finally starting to see the decline in her. Even though Jasmine is somehow 37 years old, she feels way younger than that. I'm still going to pick Manon because I don't think Jasmine's going to be able to take her down. I don't think Jasmine has the ability to win a fight if she can't get it to the ground. Her striking is just horrible. No head movement whatsoever. Just walks into everything. If she can't get the takedown, she looks like a lost kid in the mall looking for her parents. No idea what to do with her hands defensively. Being in Canada especially, I don't think Jasmine even needs to get takedowns to win this fight. I think she can do it with just cage control, especially with how not damaging Manon's strikes are. The Canadian judges are horrible and extremely biased towards wrestling and control time to begin with. Never mind when it's their golden goose and Jasmine Jastovicius. And if you think I'm being dramatic or crazy, go rewatch the Aldo versus Bautista fight and then come back and tell me how confident you are to fade a Canadian wrestler in Canada. So I'm going to go Manon Ferrot in this fight. It just seems like too much of a nightmare matchup for Jasmine. So it's going to be Manon Ferrot to win this fight by 29-28 decision. Next fight, we got Chito Vera versus Amin Zahabi. This is one of those fights where it seems like Chito Vera has all the skills to be able to beat Zahabi, but it feels like this is the exact type of fight Zahabi would somehow pull off by a controversial decision. He does very well at game planning and he has a high fight IQ, but his skills just aren't there. Very much the type of guy where it seems like hard work and toughness beats talent. But trusting Chito Vera in a 3-round fight against a guy who just always seems to know how to pull it off, the way he's constantly moving around the cage and moving his hands and pressing forward, it makes it look like he's always doing something even when he's not. I'm still going to pick Chito in this fight. I don't trust it at all. I wouldn't bet on it. I don't think Zahabi won against Aldo or Javid Basharat. I think Aldo would have been able to finish him if he had a better gas tank, and Chito has a phenomenal gas tank. And I think he's going to be more willing to let his hands go because he's coming off losses, knows he doesn't have to worry about takedowns as much. I think Chito's dangerous enough where he can find his chin at some point. So it's going to be Chito win this fight by KO. Next up, we got Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott. I was a Mike Malott doubter for a long time. I thought he was just going to be breakable, especially after seeing the Neil Magny loss. Showing a ton of improvements in his striking. Great kicks, good job at mixing up his strikes. Throws a spinning kick and doesn't throw it all the time, so it's not predictable and it lands very well. The fight against Charles Radke, I was very impressed. He did not look breakable at all. Kevin Holland, I just don't think has it anymore. Mentally, I think he's completely gone. He's been showing up for a paycheck for how many years now? Against Daniel Rodriguez, he looked horrible. I think he showed his age and his speed has really gone downhill. Usually when Holland gets beat, it's because he didn't show up or it looks like he's not even trying. This time it looks like he was trying, but just didn't have that speed anymore. So it's going to be Mike Malott to win this fight by decision. And then we got the main event, RDR versus Brendan Allen. I might get some heat for this, but I do not think RDR is a good fighter. I think this dude is a fraud check waiting to happen. The fact that people are talking about this guy even being able to sniff a win against Hamzat is the most diabolical thing I've ever heard in my life. RDR, I think, has such a fraudulent record. First off, I don't think he won against Whitaker. I think he lost pretty clearly that 5th round, but there was nothing in that fight I was impressed by except his durability. He's one of the most one-dimensional fighters. I understand he has incredible grappling and a powerful knee up the middle, but that is it. Some of the most horrific striking I've ever seen. Just horrible getting pressured backwards. No defense or head movement. The way he flails his hands, he looks like he's never fought before in his life. Shooting takedowns from a mile away. I've never seen somebody look so bad in the stand-up against GM3. He was losing a decision until he got that finish in the end of the fight. Terrible fight IQ. I mean, throwing everything into punches when he's a mile away and already completely gassed. I think people just got mesmerized watching the RDR versus Whitaker fight live. Seeing how insanely tough he was, gets back to his feet and just immediately goes back to walking him down like nothing happened. And then the knee up the middle that hurt Whitaker and led to the takedown. I think people just remember that highlight and it stands out to them because it was a great knee, but when you watch the fight, the majority of knees he's throwing are so predictable, can be seen from a mile away and barely even have power on them, even if they were to land. Whitaker also gassed himself because he didn't know RDR was so invincible. People just look at this as RDR has the better pure grappling. First off, he still has to get it to the ground to begin with, but besides just straight durability and pure jiu-jitsu, I think Brendan Allen is better everywhere. So much more experienced, shown tons of improvement. The most important thing in this fight for him is his gas tank and making sure that he's the one backing RDR down to the fence. He was on his way to losing a decision to GM3 and was gifted a decision against Whitaker. But now people think he deserves to be fighting for the title. Brendan Allen has so much more experience and seen better fighters. We've seen him have dominant performances against good fighters. We've seen how he handles with adversity, and it's a hell of a lot better than RDR's. Just because you survive and you keep walking forward doesn't mean what you're doing is good or looks good in the judge's eyes or is dangerous. RDR doesn't drown opponents. He just survives and depends on them gassing out and wearing him down with his size against the fence. I don't think he understands how much more gassed he's going to be in this fight if Brendan Allen is backing him down, or if Brendan Allen takes his back in the first round. Brendan Allen is a very fast starter. Always pretty much wins the first round. What happens if he just backs RDR down and gasses him out instantly? What if he gets him to the ground and that makes RDR completely rethink his game plan? I don't think Brendan Allen's going to be scared to go to the ground with him. I think especially in the first round, I could see him coming out when they're dry and he's got all that energy. Or I could even see it happening later in the fight when he throws those looping punches coming in and turns his back. He's got to be very careful. Brendan Allen is very sneaky with how he'll swing around the back on the feet and take you down. So it's going to be Brendan Allen to win this fight by 49-46 decision. If you guys are still watching, thank you so much. It means the world to me. Subscribe if you're new. Follow my socials, my Instagram, my TikTok. It means the world to me. But thank you guys so much. Subscribe if you're new. And I will see you guys next week for UFC 321.